I should have known something was wrong the moment I walked in, and nobody looked up. No nods, no handshakes, not even the fake kind people give when they want something from you. Just the hollow tap of keyboards and the soft hum of overpriced espresso machines. The office smelled different too, sterile, like plastic and lemon polish instead of ink and ambition. Something had been scrubbed clean, not just the floor. Me. My name's Michael Trent. I'm 58 years old, and until this morning, I was Senior Executive Vice President of Client Strategy at Calder & Rhodes Global. I helped build this company. 28 years. I remember when we worked out of a shared WeWork space with flickering lights and a single bathroom for 13 people. We didn't even have a receptionist back then. I used to answer the phone myself with, "Calder & Rhodes, this is Mike. How can I help you?" Now the company takes up 6 floors of a downtown skyscraper, glass walls, standing desks, collaboration pods. And somewhere along the way, my name started disappearing from things. First, the client rosters, then the strategy memos, then the invites to board meetings. Subtle, professional, surgical. I rode the elevator up to 45 with a new intern who couldn't even make eye contact. He adjusted his AirPods and acted like I was invisible. Probably doesn't even know I negotiated the merger that saved his job before he had it. Kids like that don't look back, only down at their screens. At 9:02 a.m., I got the calendar invite. Executive touch base, CEO office, 9:15. No subject line, just that. Her office used to be her father's. I remember when she was in high school, coming in with glitter pens and braces, shadowing meetings just to spend time with her dad. He loved this company, loved building things. He used to say, "When you've got the right people in the room, Mike, you don't need magic, just momentum." But momentum turned into buzzwords, and buzzwords turned into bubblegum. She didn't even look up when I walked in, just scrolled. Left hand holding the phone, thumb dancing over the screen. Right hand tapping a pen on the desk like she was waiting for DoorDash. Pink bubblegum, fresh and loud in her mouth. She blew a lazy bubble that popped without drama, then sucked it back in. "Sit." I sat. She finally spoke. "You're too set in your ways." Just like that. No preamble, no thank you for your decades of service, no handshake, no performance metrics, just that. "You've done great things here," she said, still scrolling, "but we need faster energy, younger decisions." I looked at her face, perfectly symmetrical, too symmetrical, like it had been printed. The tan was off, too orange. The nails were long and glittery. The eyes were focused on the screen, not me. She hadn't looked at me once. "You know how it is," she added, gnawing her gum. "Time for fresh legs." My stomach didn't drop. My hands didn't shake. There was no dramatic sting of betrayal. Just a click, like a switch being flipped. She slid the papers across the glass table. Severance packet, 8 pages, stapled, already signed by HR. "I gave you a generous cushion," she said. "You'll land fine." She said it like she was doing me a favor, like I hadn't carried this company on my back while she was still uploading dance videos in her dorm room. She turned her head slightly, still not meeting my eyes, and started typing a tweet. I picked up the papers, didn't flip through them, just signed. Slowly, carefully, making sure my signature was legible. When I stood, she still didn't look up. "Best of luck," she said, voice flat. No hard feelings. I studied her for a moment, not as a boss, not even as the daughter of a man I once called a friend. I studied her the way you study a chessboard, when you already know the outcome. Then I nodded once, and turned to leave. Hand on the doorknob, I paused. No one had ever fired me before. Not once. Not in 28 years. I didn't look back when I said it. You activated code black. The door clicked behind me. And just like that, it was done. Or so she thought. They said I retired. Not resigned. Not was let go. Retired. Like I rode off into some golden-hued sunset with a plaque and a handshake. Like it was my choice. Like I left gently with grace and a fruit basket. No one questioned it. Not the interns. Not the department heads. Not even the board. That's how these things go when you're my age. They assume you've finally had enough. And I let them. I didn't correct anyone. Not my colleagues. Not the neighbors. Not even my wife. Especially not my wife. She asked how the meeting went. I told her the truth. Just not the whole of it. I said it was time for a change, that I'd been thinking about stepping back anyway, that it felt good. Clean. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and poured 2 glasses of wine. Told me she was proud of me. I didn't tell her that I signed the papers without reading the payout. Didn't tell her what she said to me. Didn't say the words, younger decisions or fresh legs. Didn't mention the bubble gum. My daughter texted me later that night. Heard the news. Congrats, Dad. You deserve the rest. I texted back a thumbs up emoji and a heart. Then stared at the screen for a long time. The next day, I went fishing. Didn't catch a thing. Didn't care. I let the silence wrap around me like a warm towel and breathed in the lake air like it was medicine. I ate lunch alone on a park bench. Ham sandwich, no mustard, just the way I like it, and fed a few scraps to a mangy old duck that looked like it had been through a war. I waved at the grocery clerk on the way home, smiled when he asked how retirement was treating me. Peaceful, I said. But when the sun went down, I went to work. My home office doesn't look like much, just a converted basement with a scratched oak desk and a banker's lamp that flickers when the washing machine runs upstairs. But the hard drive buried behind the filing cabinet, that's the brain. That's where everything lives. I built Code Black 10 years ago, maybe 11, around the time the board started shifting, when HR began sending me performance snapshots instead of handwritten thank yous. I saw it coming, not in a paranoid way, in a practical one, the way you pack a flashlight before a storm. Code Black is insurance, not the kind you buy, the kind you build, slowly, quietly, like a vault with no visible hinges. Phase 1. Silence. Do nothing. Say nothing. Let them think you're licking your wounds. Phase 2. Reclamation. Identify the clients who were never really the firms to begin with, because that's the secret. Calder and Rhodes didn't bring in the Fortune 5s. I did. And I didn't do it with marketing decks or referral funnels. I did it with dinners, with calls at 2 a.m., with loyalty. I still have the contracts, most of them signed under my personal consulting LLC, Evermark Advisory. Created it in 2009. Completely legal, completely separate, all transparent, all intentional. Phase 3. Well, we're not there yet. I opened one of the encrypted folders. Legacy. That's what I called it. Inside are emails from her father. Real ones. Not the canned praise you give to interns. I mean the raw, unfiltered messages from a man who respected me, who leaned on me, who once called me his keystone. I reread the one he sent during the Tokyo acquisition. We don't get this done without you, Mike. Name your bonus. Then I opened another folder, labeled Ashlyn, her. Back when she was climbing the ladder, I was the one smoothing the rungs. She used to ask for my help all the time. Introductions, context, how to read a room full of older men without shrinking. She even thanked me once, wrote, "Couldn't have done this without you, Mike. Someday I'll repay you." Well, someday came. I didn't feel angry as I read it, just aware, like a man watching his own echo fade through a canyon. I printed the email and slid it into a file marked personal. Not as evidence, as a reminder. I didn't make any calls that first week, didn't reach out to the clients, didn't touch the burner phone. I just waited. Because here's what they don't understand about silence. It isn't surrender. It's precision. Silence is the space between the match and the flame. And I'm not just lighting a fire. I'm letting them build the kindling themselves. It started with the investor call. They dressed it up, of course. Branded backgrounds, slick transitions, music that tried too hard to sound like innovation. I watched it from my laptop, volume low, coffee in hand. She stood in front of that virtual skyline, all confidence and collagen, clicking through the slides like she was auditioning for a TED Talk. Agility, momentum, youth-driven decisions, tech-first reinvention. Buzzwords stacked on buzzwords, no substance, just syntax. I could almost hear her gum crack between sentences. To the untrained ear, it probably sounded fine, maybe even impressive. But to the people who'd been around as long as I had, the ones who understood what a client actually wanted, someone who listened, someone who showed up, someone who gave a damn, it was hollow. I didn't have to lift a finger. I just let go. 3 days later, client A pulled their account, quietly, without warning. No press release, no fireworks, just a short surgical email. We've decided to explore other advisory options. Thank you for your time. She probably assumed it was random, some internal shakeup, a coincidence. It wasn't. Client A was a third-generation logistics firm out of Chicago. I helped their CEO negotiate his first buyout over a bottle of Glenfiddich and a handshake in 2003. When his father died in 2009, I flew out the same night, sat beside him at the funeral, told him I'd stay until the storm passed. He never forgot that. I didn't ask him to leave Calder and Rhodes. I didn't say a word. I just didn't call him back. Then came Client B, a biotech startup in Seattle. Young CEO. Brilliant but volatile. His board didn't trust him. He barely trusted himself. But he trusted me. I'd met him during a panel at the Stanford Summit years ago. He'd pulled me aside after the Q&A and said, "I don't want to be sold to. I want to be understood." I made sure he was. Every quarterly call, every press hiccup, every patent delay. I walked him through it. When he pulled out, he did send a press release. Something about realigning priorities and seeking a more personalized strategic approach. Translation: I'm not here anymore. And then, the big one. A global retail partner. The kind of client you only land once a decade. Billings in the high 7 figures. They didn't cancel. Just postponed renewal discussions. Which is worse, really. It signals doubt. It leaves a smell. That kind of hesitation trickles into investor ears and spreads like mildew through a portfolio. That's when I got the text. "Hey, can we talk?" No punctuation, no name. Just those 5 words, like we were old friends trying to catch up. I didn't answer. She tried again the next day. This time, it was a little longer. "I know things were tense, but I think we should clear the air. Your insight could still be valuable." Still, as if it was a leftover thing, a doggy bag of relevance. I deleted it. She started calling board members. I know this because one of them called me. Said her tone was shaky, that she sounded like someone trying to explain why the house smelled like smoke before anyone noticed the fire. He didn't ask me to step in, just wanted to check in. Code 4. Is this you? I didn't confirm. I didn't deny. I just said, sometimes when you pull the wrong block, the tower falls. I could picture her in her office, the one that used to be her father's, pacing in those sky-high heels, chewing that gum down to rubber, yelling at an assistant who didn't even know who I was. Her phone buzzing, her inbox filling, clients stalling, numbers bleeding, and nothing she could do about it. Because I didn't burn the bridge. I just stopped holding it up. That's what they never understood. These weren't just accounts. They were relationships, built over years, forged in quiet moments, steak dinners, late-night phone calls, backroom assurances. I knew their kids' names, their anniversaries, their failures, their fears. You don't replace that with a Canva slideshow and an electric blue blazer. One of them, Client C, actually told her the truth. "We were never loyal to your brand," he said, according to someone who overheard. "We were loyal to him." And just like that, the spell broke. I didn't gloat, didn't toast, didn't dance. I just poured another cup of coffee, opened the market tracker, and watched Calder and Rhodes slide down by 3.2%. It begins. They thought it was just churn at first. That's what they call it now. Client churn. As if loyalty were a consumable product. As if decades of trust could be measured like monthly subscription data. But when 3 flagship accounts walked within 12 days, and 2 more threatened to follow, the board stopped sipping the Kool-Aid. They launched what they called a discreet internal audit. I knew what that meant. They wanted blood, but clean hands. And blood they got. It started with contracts. The audit team dug through everything from the past 18 months. Deal memos, sign-off trails, third-party vendor lists. That's when they hit the first landmine. A dozen high-value contracts signed without full legal review, missing compliance approvals. In one case, no final countersignature from risk management at all. All fast-tracked through a streamlined workflow Ashlyn had implemented herself. I could picture it, her sitting in that glass office, gum snapping, screen glowing, clicking approve without reading a line. She thought speed was power, thought momentum could substitute for maturity. But business doesn't forgive carelessness, especially not in writing. And then there were the emails, old ones, buried in threads no one was supposed to revisit. Emails where she pushed analysts to just get it done and loop in legal later. In one particularly damning note, she wrote, "If Mike were still here, this would already be across the finish line." That one made me pause. I hadn't expected to see my name in there, and I certainly hadn't expected it wrapped in that kind of confession. It wasn't a compliment. It was desperation, disguised as nostalgia. A flicker of awareness she'd never admit aloud. The audit team handed their preliminary findings to the compliance officer. A safe, dull man in stiff suits who never smiled. But he was thorough, relentless. By the time he traced the approval chains, a picture started to form. Not one of intentional fraud, but of arrogance, of shortcuts taken for the sake of optics. And then I sent the Slack logs. Anonymously, of course. A PDF compiled over a year ago, when I still had admin access. She'd forgotten to revoke it. Or maybe she didn't think I was the kind of man who saved things. But I do. I save everything. The logs weren't pretty. Messages time-stamped at 1 a.m., where she mocked partners behind their backs, joked about ghosting clients who were too boomer to matter, and even made a comment about one of our most loyal board members. "He'll vote however I want. He still calls me sweetheart." I didn't embellish. I didn't edit. I just sent the file with the subject line, "For your internal records." 3 days later, the board held a closed-door session. She wasn't invited. That part stung her, I'm sure. She prided herself on always being in the room, being the loudest voice, the youngest expert, the brand. But when you burn through credibility, like lighter fluid, eventually someone smells the smoke. I sat on my porch that morning. Just me, a thermos of black coffee, and the hum of summer insects in the yard. The email updates rolled in slow. First from an old friend in legal, then a second from someone in finance who simply wrote, "It's happening." I didn't reply. I thought about her then, not the woman who fired me with gum in her mouth and her phone in her hand. I thought about the girl from 15 years ago, who used to wander into our Friday morning meetings with a notebook full of scribbles and wide eyes. She once called me Uncle Mike, said I reminded her of her dad, but less scary. She used to ask questions that mattered. Why do some deals fall apart after signing? What makes a board member trust you? I taught her the difference between noise and presence. I taught her that silence, when used properly, is a weapon. She listened, back then. But somewhere along the way, she stopped listening, stopped learning, started believing that perception could replace discipline, that trendiness could stand in for legacy. I didn't hate her. I just knew she'd stopped respecting the game. The morning after the board meeting, she tried to log in. Nothing worked. Not her email, not her scheduling software, not even her building access badge. She called the front desk. The receptionist put her on hold. When she showed up at the glass doors, security didn't buzz her in. She stood outside for 11 minutes. I know because someone sent me the CCTV footage. She pressed her face to the door. Knocked once, then twice. One of the younger VPs walked past her without making eye contact. The press release came an hour later. Effective immediately, the board has accepted the resignation of our CEO, Ashlyn Rhodes. We thank her for her service and wish her the best in future endeavors. That's how they do it. Polished. Painless. A bloodless coup. I didn't toast, didn't tell my wife, didn't text a single soul. I just returned to my home office, opened the file labeled closure, and dragged it into the trash. Then I sat back in the same leather chair where I once mentored her. Before the skyline, before the power, before she forgot who showed her how to play. And I watched the silence settle. Just the way I planned it. I live in a smaller house now. One story. No stairs. No staff. The kind of place you don't need to unlock with a badge or buzz into from a front desk. It's got a leaky faucet in the kitchen and a creaky step out front that I keep forgetting to fix. I like it here. The quiet fits me now. I spend most mornings in the garage, hands deep in old engines, bringing rusted-out motorcycles back to life. Grease under my nails, a little Johnny Cash in the background, coffee cooling on the workbench beside a half-eaten apple. I always meant to get into this, back when I was working 70-hour weeks in suits that never felt like mine. Turns out, it was never too late. You just have to step away from the noise long enough to remember who you were, before everyone needed something from you. Most people in this town think I retired early. They ask me about the company like I still check in. I don't correct them. I nod, say it was time, say I wanted a slower rhythm. It's easier that way. No one here knows who Ashlyn Rhodes is. No one here even knows what Calder and Rhodes Global was, let alone what it became. And that's fine. Legacy isn't always something you need a parade for. A couple afternoons a week, I teach a course at the local college. Business ethics, mostly juniors and seniors who think capitalism is just about hustle and coffee. I try to tell them it's not that simple, that it's about people, about trust, about silence sometimes. They don't always get it, but some do. You can see it in their eyes when a lesson lands, that flicker of understanding. It reminds me why I still show up. I don't keep much from my old life. No awards, no framed photos, not even my old ID badge. But there's a drawer in my nightstand where I keep a single printed copy of the severance letter. 8 pages, crisp, stapled. Her signature at the bottom, tight and slanted like she was in a rush. I don't keep it out of bitterness. It's not a trophy. It's a reminder. That day still lives in me. Not because it broke me, but because it revealed everything. Not just who she was, but who I had become. Not angry. Not blind. Just ready. The last message she ever sent me came weeks after the press release. No apology, no accusation, just one word. Why? She sent it in the middle of the night. I saw the timestamp, 2:13 a.m., probably after a few glasses of wine, probably staring at a LinkedIn feed full of people who still didn't know the truth, who still believed the line about stepping down to pursue new opportunities. I never replied. There was nothing to say that wouldn't have sounded like gloating, and I don't gloat. I never raised my voice. Not once. Not in the meeting where she fired me. Not when the clients left. Not when the board cut her out of the loop. I didn't scream or slam a door or throw a speech across a table. I just stepped back. That's the part they never understand. The loud ones. The ones who think dominance comes from volume or speed or control. They don't see the quiet hands that have been holding the walls up for years. They think they're flying solo when they've had someone keeping them steady the whole time. Until one day, the hands let go. I didn't burn the company down. I just stopped holding it together, and it collapsed, like anything would, without foundation. Calder and Rhodes still exists technically. The name's still on the building, still shows up in press releases and trade journals, but it's not what it was. It's a shell now, a glossy one maybe, but hollow. Most of the old clients have moved on. The ones who stayed don't call like they used to. The leadership team is young and loud and constantly rotating, flash over substance, movement over meaning. But I don't watch it anymore. Don't check their site. Don't ask around. What happened to them was never about revenge. It was about truth, and the truth doesn't need applause. A couple days ago in class, we were discussing case studies, ethics in mergers, failures in leadership, the slippery slope of inflated self-worth. One of the younger students raised his hand. Bright kid, quiet, the kind who listens before speaking. He asked, "Professor, how do you know when it's time to walk away?" The room went still. I took a breath, thought about bubblegum, thought about old deals, thought about glittering slides and missing signatures, and hands holding, then releasing. I smiled. "When they think they can win without you," I said. And the class went quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't need to be filled.